Welcome back. We're glad you're watching Morning Express, the 3rd of February. I'm now joined in studio by 3 gentlemen. Yes, we have an extra man today on the team. On the way it is, Mr. Ochieng, who is a news editor right here at KTN. Also Benji Ndolo and Tony Gachoka with me as well. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Benji hasn't slept. Super Bowl. No sleep whatsoever.
Well, that is not a national matter. So let's get to the national matters, Benji. And we begin with schools. Today, Form 1 selection begins. And the biggest, even as I was doing the newspaper review, one of the concerns, and even among parents, some of the stories we've had them share, is that it seems the rich are the ones, or those with means, are the ones at the end of the day able to get these slots in the, secondary schools. And that initially, what a student is told, work hard, get good marks, and you get to a good school, is not happening for most of these people. Your thoughts, Aaron?
First of all, it's not selection, they are reporting today.
Reporting, yes, I beg your pardon.
And I think one thing that comes out is the whole education system. I think something is amiss. I mean, how can a candidate score high marks, some as high as being top 10 in the country,
right,
and they fail to be selected to credible schools, and they get is it provincial or district schools for that matter. And I think there is what we can say a sort of corruption that students who come from well-off families can be able to find their way into national schools through dubious means. I think that is something that needs to be looked into, and I think an audit should be done. I think we should be able to go to these schools and see what these students that are occupying these top national schools, did they pass well? How come they are admitted at the expense of someone who performed well? Probably because he's from the village and his father is a peasant somewhere, does not know anybody in the education sector, high ranked. Right. So I think what I would say the solution is we do an audit. We go to these national schools and see who are these students that have been admitted.
This of course has come to the attention of the Ministry of Education. They are well aware, and that also with the very many levies we're also seeing the pay slip is coming with so many, which is also concerning for the parents.
Well, Sophia, it's the first Monday you never asked how my weekend was, but I had an interesting Monday today, because looking back at the weekend, I had good and bad. But on the good side, my friend Mukesh Gohel's son is getting married, going to India in Mumbai, and his wife and Reka came home to bring some chocolate. And I wish that family well. And actually, there's something about the African tradition that I saw now in the Asian tradition of coming home and inviting someone to a wedding. So the young people, God bless them, and they're gone. On the issue of education, an important subject, it breaks my heart, because you bring the children up to know, in this society, work hard and you will benefit. We all have this ethos that you work hard and there is benefit. It really cannot be condoned in any democratic and civilized society that after all that work, you to come home and tell the child, why did you work hard? I just don't understand it. I think somebody very high up must deal with this. It just is the worst, saddest thing I know, because we are in a country where patronage and politics dominate our lives. The one place where it is pure is in the school, where everybody knows meritocracy works, and the best child working the hardest should have the best opportunity. It's really flabbergasting, really, to me.
Super Bowl is not a national subject. Well,
absolutely, it's not.
I like how
I think
it's such a big deal.
It's a big thing in America.
It is a big deal.
And I think
but for ordinary Monanche right now,
watched event in the world. I think
and that's what I was coming to. Robert Alai did a lot of good tweeting. Just to give you an example, 50 million crates of beer are sold on this particular day. A 4-minute commercial is 100 million Kenya shillings. I'll leave
that's
it at that.
Big for the middle class and all.
Yeah, well, but it's good to know. You can never. I'm big on knowing stuff. On the education story, obviously there's two aspects here. One was the heart-wrenching story in the Sunday papers of the gentleman who's having high blood pressure and hiding in the hospital because his daughter was number 5 in the country.
Yeah.
She has not gotten a school. It's unbelievable. He has no way to explain it to her. He's just an ordinary Kenyan who doesn't have the means to reach some permanent secretary and get her placed at Alliance where she deserves to be and what have you. Something is very warped in the education system. Obviously, this whole quota and intake and reverse racism, reverse, this enhancement of mediocrity, by the way, is just, it's outdated. It's something that we have got to work on yesterday. That's the first aspect. The next aspect, Sophia, is the fact that we don't have enough schooling infrastructure. 10 years after introduction of FPE, we've got a higher transitional rate, obviously, from not middle class, from primary to secondary, secondary to university. A lot of the tertiary institutions have now been made, intermediary universities, if you may. We need to still build more, and so based on the lack of that infrastructure, the quality and standards are down. You saw a UNESCO report last week that made it clear that a lot of Kenyan teachers do not have the command and actually are not better than their students when it comes to a lot of different subjects like mathematics and what have you. There's a lack of capacity. There's a serious problem with capacity, and I think this is an opportunity, especially for Jubilee, to not dump so much money in unrealistic laptops that would be fantastic for the first world, while we have real capacity problems with children learning under trees. And
excuse me, hold on.
Learning under trees and teachers.
No, hold on.
We have a problem with literacy.
Benji.
Let him finish.
Let me finish. Let me finish. We have real standard 7 and 8
you make such allegations on television. What has Jubilee laptop to do with the sadness of adoption of people to...
No, I'm saying the second issue is the quality of education. We actually have illiteracy. We have people coming out of school and we have teachers who cannot even do a sentence or do a sum.
There's actually a report last week
I'm talking about UNESCO. So you don't sort that out by throwing gadgets.
This is absolutely...
This is a problem with partisanship.
I think we want our young children.
Gentlemen.
We want our young children to have the best start in life. Nothing is wrong with starting the laptop project, and I pray
not under a rock. That's what I'm saying.
No, I think it is wrong.
I think Benji is saying I think it's a priority.
Not under a rock in Karachuonyo.
I think it's priority. I think one thing that the only issue with the laptop is it's a good venture that the government is putting to enhance technology. But do you know there are schools, purportedly schools that do not have classrooms? I think, first of all, I think the government should try and even provide desks. Let's say desks for all students.
For the students.
For people in primary schools. Let's start with that. How do I carry a laptop and I don't have a desk?
Sit on the sofa.
Alex, I want to ask you a question. I'm sorry I wasn't home for you yesterday. I would come to your house for dinner. I don't know what you had. I don't know what you had for dinner. But I don't think everybody had the same meal. Look, government cannot, under the sky, anywhere in the world, provide all solutions. Why I'm a social democrat is because there is the principle of solidarity. The rich take care of the poor, the well take care of the sick, the employed take care of the unemployed. We must not look for government solution in everything. There is a society. We are an African society, a proud society. We must understand that yes, government can do some things, but we have to do some other things. And I think part of the problem we are having is a breakdown of the society. I read the story Benji is talking about on Sunday, and it's heart-wrenching. And one wonders, where is the society? Because I would love to, I wish I knew that child. Because I would love to do my part. Somebody has to do something.
So you maintain the government should not be called upon to act on everything. The argument Benji is making, priorities are misplaced.
Yes.
In terms of what needs to be done.
And laptops are expensive.
Sophia, please, let's build in this country like the Red Cross, who do a wonderful, wonderful job. I love what Judy Gachoka is doing with the First Lady in terms of bringing, attention to disease and problems. My question is this. As a society, we must also respond. Westgate was a learning lesson to me. I didn't see the government but I saw so many people bringing blood, bringing life.
So you're saying Kenyans should go and build the schools and buy the desks?
Sophia, please ask all your good viewers, and I know you have so many. That girl is bleeding, the girl who had number 5.
Yeah, number 5.
One person can help her. We really need to get out there and make a difference.
Okay.
Not just the talking point.
All right.
Let's also contribute.
To be fair, I did wish I had the money to pay for her because I would.
Okay,
I do think about it.
I do have the money. Could I pay for her? Yeah, thank you.
Let them get in touch.
Well,
Sophia, be serious.
We have a solution.
We have a solution. Tony, you have made a commitment on live television. You better follow it up, because when they come on KTN, we will pass over your number.
I will.
All right, but very important subject, of course, one will continue to watch. But it's unfortunate because we have tried to get the ministry officials to come and just clarify some of the issues, including the laptops, which the pupils was to start, this year with them, and quite a number of issues with the teachers and all. But they still say they're trying to clean house and put everything in order. So that unfortunate, but a story will continue to.
By this, Sophia, when Tony does allow me to do her shopping and all of that, so I pledge to do that. If you do, I'll do everything to send her off. The shopping, the pocket money, everything.
I mean,
this is important.
It is very important.
Talk about national matters.
So Benji, remember last week when talking about the probable expansion of the cabinet and Mudavadi likely to make an entrance into the same, and we have a reply here from Kibisu Kabatesi, who's the Private and Communication Secretary to Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. And he says, I'm usually glued to your Monday morning show, of course, with the two of you. And last week I was, however, disappointed by Ndolo's frivolous characterization of Honorable Musalia Mudavadi as a lazy and someone who marked time at local government ministry. So point number 1, Benji is recycling the hangover of court election campaign character assassination propaganda in his thought processes. Insulting an individual is not the mark of a sober analyst he claims to be. And several other comments that have been made here, but I'll not go through them. Because
that's a direct allegation, I'll let Kabatesi know that Caroline Nyekeri, who is a staffer and a very close person to Musalia Mudavadi, is an old friend of mine, someone I respect, someone who's my friend. And listen, the only way we're going to move this country forward is in discussing things to the heart of the matter. I don't know Musalia personally. He has never eaten my goat. I would have no reason whatsoever to dislike him or to hate him. What I do have an obligation to do on national television and in formulating and shaping policy, Sophia, is to not waffle around the issues. Musalia Mudavadi is lucky that the ghosts of the cemetery scandal, which was a big scandal under his watch, were not resuscitated and taken all the way to where they should be. So that's just one example. I will not even go, for example, to the levels of Goldenberg. All right? This is, we need to cut to the chase. I'm a spade caller, that's what I am. I don't call it a big spoon. So Kabatesi, slow down. I don't think you want any of this. Thank you very much. Well,
at least I decided to give him that right of reply.
I think the Goldenberg issue, his name was cleared based on the investigation
by
that
who?
Were done. There are a number of investigations.
You see, in Kenya, everybody's name gets cleared.
But his name was cleared, so he's, as we speak right now, he's cleared by the courts of law. So on the issue of, I wanted to make a point on the issue of Mudavadi being
likely coming in
to be made a cabinet minister. We saw the president last week coming out clearly and saying, let whoever knows that I'm going to appoint Mudavadi to come out and tell me that, oh, I think you're going to appoint him as a cabinet minister.
Yes.
But I think that constitutionally there are some slots that the president is at liberty to still fill as a cabinet minister. But what I would say is that I think there are some ministers who we've clearly seen that their portfolios involve a lot of things, and if I was to advise the president, probably some ministry like the one being held by Olelenku and the devolution ministry, I think they have a lot on the plate, and probably, if on my part, I think there needs to be someone else to help them, especially devolution. I don't know what you just
well, first of all, I want to thank the former Deputy Prime Minister for writing to Sophia Wanuna, because I think this program and public discourse requires fair reply and fair opportunity. And the media must always respect this. It's part of the war we are fighting in the courts as to whether everybody should be heard. And I don't agree that we can say here Mudavadi and Goldenberg, because it's a matter of public record that the former deputy prime minister was cleared of any wrongdoing by the Bosire Commission, and no allegation or charges have ever been preferred on him on Goldenberg. And we shouldn't use this forum to say things that are not right. And I don't want to begin to discuss that.
Let me move this discussion.
I just wanted to talk about, as we move on, the appointments. The president, I thought, answered it, Sophia, unless you want to forget that. The president was asked during the press conference last week as to whether he's making any cabinet reshuffles. And the president seemed to suggest that there is no imminent cabinet.
Seemed to suggest, he did not categorically say no. So it's out there. It could happen, could not happen.
Well, I leave it to you, Sophia. I think the
we'll leave it to the president, not to me. Let's talk about ICC and
just
the
before that,
conference
Sophia,
that's coming up.
You know what bothers me? I don't know why Jubilee is so defensive. It's going on to 1 year of this cabinet, Aaron. What is so wrong with the president making an assessment of his cabinet and making a reshuffle? Because every time we touch on this, as with many other things, they're very much on the defense. You saw Tony here almost standing up on the issue of laptops. What is wrong with saying, wait a minute, okay, some kids are sitting under a rock, all right, some are in Turkana and whatnot. Maybe we should adjust slightly. What is so wrong with doing a shuffle? I don't see what the problem is, especially as he highlighted on the issue of Lenko and what have you.
Okay, let's move to the ICC, Benji. So that status conference coming up, and it is really to discuss whether there's going to be any moving forward in as far as the president's trial is concerned. We saw the changes in terms of the judges who are presiding that as well. And as that, Uhuru's council, of course, is pushing for cancellation, for them to declare there's no evidence, so this should not go forward. And at the same time, we have the deputy president's trial that is still ongoing. And one of the things that prosecutor Bensouda said was that they're confident with the progress, that it's a very strong case. But she says that we've seen numerous times witnesses recanting their statements. So as you watch these two trials happening, you know, the one for the president hanging in the balance, the one for the deputy president, the prosecutor expressing confidence on everything that's happening. On the other hand, we have all these statements being recanted.
I would start by saying Bensouda can confidently say that we do not know the remaining witnesses, whatever they will say, and we also do not know the accounts of witnesses that they make when the court goes on private session. So probably there are things that happen that do not come out, but it will be interesting to see the status conference of the president because as we all know, there are several witnesses who have dropped, and at some point, even been, as it stands, Bensouda asked for more time. So I will be watching. I'll be.
Why are they dropping, Aaron? 1 second, Tony.
It will be interesting.
Why are the witnesses dropping? You're a senior editor.
There are several issues. Some of them are saying that probably they were bribed to make statements. Some of them are saying, and you know, a witness has...
This goes on this program every morning. Look, the president has a right to be respected. His case is above board. There is nobody who doesn't know the rules of the Rome Statute. You lie before a court, you're indicted. Alex, as you are aware, it's very simple.
I like that you've baptized him, Alex. He's Aaron.
Oh, Aaron. That will be Aaron. My second name. Well, okay. So, Aaron, with deeper apologies, my point is, the case before the president, before the court at the ICC, is a legal matter, not a political matter. If witnesses go and lie at The Hague and the ICC, they will have consequences. And there has been so much talk about what the president is alleged to have done by purging witnesses or purging testimony. What about the other side of the coin? What if witnesses were blackmailing the president? What if witnesses were trying to make themselves rich through this sad tragedy? I put it to you, and I say this, on the 4th of February, when the status conference is held, it will be so clear to everybody, as we have always said, the clarity that the president never committed any crime.
We do not know that.
No,
Nobody
but
knows.
why then we discussing it? Are we discussing it so that you can have your narrative and we can't have ours?
Probably you know something that we do not.
We don't know.
You see, Sophia,
Yes.
I don't want to say too much on this IC thing because clearly it's gotten extremely contestatious, even dangerous. If you listen to Tony clearly, as he begins his statement, first of all, you can see very well he heralds the tone and the sound of a DC from the 80s. The president must be respected, and yet here we are trying as a nation to deepen democracy, to be a shining beacon in this region so that Kenya is an example to Africa and the world. You see, this is how divisive this whole thing has become. Clearly, I think there's many things happening at the ICC. Geopolitical considerations, all manner of stuff, simply because, and I've said this many a time, if I was an accused and I'm innocent, I am eager to get to the dock and prove my innocence. The thing is, even if this case is dropped against the president, if you even read the Sunday papers yesterday, the headline, the amount of damage that has been done to his stature and credibility, even just to discuss the different allegations and what have you, at the least you want to have a chance to exonerate yourself. So Tony, even if they got dropped, that wouldn't really happen.
But Benji, so also
And that's
interesting
a
is
big
what
problem.
the prosecutor alluded to, that bringing in fresh charges against other people, you know, PN.
Other people connected to him.
Other people connected
and
to.
then Sophia
So that
comes
this
the point.
could not again,
First of
you
all,
know,
let's ignore Benji talking about me being a DC, because I always sit here with Benji
and somebody, by the way, just so you know, is asking, Tony doesn't look fine today. What's up? Maida Chris asked. Are you
well,
okay?
you know the reason, but I don't want to get to that. But the issue is this, and I'll be very clear.
Yeah.
Benji keeps bringing questions, which are very important. The first one is
Thank
this.
you.
You can't say Tony this and Tony that when my credentials are very clear. To say that I'm a DC under the old...
Let's stay with the issue. Let's stay with the issue. That I think was a side
I mean,
note.
no, it's not, because it's important.
Because you're forbidding debate on the president.
No, I'm not.
That's what the Kenyan want.
Gentlemen, let's stay
Mr. Ndolo,
focused on
this is the
the
last
issue.
time I'll come to you on national TV where you talk about my person and I don't defend it. Don't do that. You know my credentials. It's a part of public record. On the issue with regard to the ICC and the president's right to be heard, and the president's men, the right to be heard, is very important. There has been these several allegations, and the prosecutor, you said rightly, is now fishing to look for businessmen, politicians, and other people. You cannot bring grave charges on war crimes against humanity, war crimes, and you weren't ready. I have never seen a prosecutor anywhere in the world, Arun, who goes ahead and prefers charges because you are presumed to be innocent until you are proved guilty. But the threshold of meeting the prosecutor's burden of evidence has never been met in these cases. The fact that this 11th hour, she's looking for new evidence, new people who she is not even charged, is an afterthought. It means, therefore, this thing was political, it is political, and must dealt political. It's not a legal case.
Sophia, you must allow me to cross-examine Tony. He's my good friend, and I like him as a person. This is not personal. This is not any hatred of sorts. Don't become the second Mudavadi to sit here and complain, Tony. You're
I
my
like
friend.
Mudavadi. He's my friend.
Okay.
Allow me to cross-examine
the
him.
point.
What's wrong with Mudavadi?
Logical hypothesis. Tony, can you sit here with a straight face and tell me during the violence that it's not even plausible that any sort of discussion or planning was held to talk about retaliation?
No.
Is that even, Tony, is that even possible?
But we're
Yes,
past
logically.
that discussion now.
I think let's not
Yeah.
go into the nitty-gritty
Yes,
of the case.
because that-
this is not a court.
Yeah.
So, my friend Benji, let's not ask questions that Bensude is supposed to be asking.
I think people
but
hate the
but I know for a fact that violence happened. The people who were killed, the people who are misplaced. There are thousands of people who suffered, and but at the end of the day, I just want to see justice happening to the people.
Well, good luck to you.
Yeah.
Well, it's one that, again, we'll watch to see what happens to the status conference. Will the defense succeed to have the case thrown away, or will Bensouda, be able to at least convince that she needs more time to be able to put her case together?
Could I just finish on that?
Yes.
The civil society will not have a job, because after February the 4th, the president will be released from any charges at The Hague. And after that, the civil society in this country, who have been shouting from the mountain.
I think he knows something that
that's the kind of crap that demeans.
You see, and I want to be very clear. If you have nothing to do but shout, if you have nothing to do but heckle, at the end of the day, there's one thing in a criminal trial, Sophia, whether you like me or you don't. And Benji says he's my friend. I wonder how he treats his enemies. But the thing is, when you go to a case where you're criminally charged, only evidence matters. And there I
let me just say, civil society.
Only evidence matters. How is it that you already know the outcome? Are we not supposed to wait and see?
I don't know where he will put his face.
I know. Will you be able to sit on this couch next Monday if that trial is?
Can I tell you, I will receive the president as he comes to celebrate throughout the country, celebrating what never was.
Okay.
Civil society continues to drill boreholes and do water issues, continues to do consumer advocacy work, continues to do evaluation of education standards, continues to involve itself in giving guidance and direction on devolution, on security matters, on everything. I think to demean the entire work of all the NGOs in Kenya, including the entire civil society, including its work in the churches and what have you, I just think it's
Well, I have a report of corruption in civil society, which I'll bring next week.
That's
and
fine.
it's done by the Mass Group, of which you have been a member. And they say the
and I'm not the
misuse and the
spokesman.
stealing of money. And it's there.
All right.
And I'll bring it here.
Gentlemen, let's talk more about the Law Society of Kenya. On the 6th of this month, they go to the polls. The hotly contested positions, a lot of focus is on the chairmanship. There's Eric Mutua, who's seeking re-election, and the other candidates, there's Okongo Mogeni, Tom Ojender as well, Professor.
The Grand Mullah.
And that's for the chairmanship. Grand Mullah is in JSC representation. Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi.
Yes.
JSC. And so there's all been allegations and claims of bribery, a lot of money being spent in these campaigns. There's been also, tribal alliances. So we thought that was only in politics, but it's also making its way in this, as far as this is concerned. What do you make of this as it has been panning out, Aaron?
I think I read something over the weekend that I was really shocked that the politics of ODM and Jubilee
are making their way into
making its way into the Law Society. I think it's a respectable organization, or for that matter, that politics should not play its part in terms of representation of the lawyers.
It should not, but is it?
I think it is, and I think there are a lot of politicians who have some interest on seeing a certain person representing this particular society, just because at the end of the day they would want their interest being represented at a much higher level.
Right.
But I do hope that lawyers would be sober when they are electing the persons to represent them. And what I would say generally is that politics should not. We don't want to see the politics of coalitions now coming in, making its way into the Law Society of Kenya. For
Eric Mutua, who has been the chair, LSK, and for Ahmed Nasir, who has been the JSC, the LSK rep in JSC, what do you make of the work they've been able to do for the time?
Well, personally, I support the two. If it should matter to any lawyer, I would vote for both the current chairman of the LSK. I think he's been very sober and diligent in doing his job, and I had never seen him with any ethnicity. I've never known where he comes from other than his surname. Mr. Mutua has served the Law Society with distinction and with character, and I have no doubt he would serve a second term very well. Of course, Abdullahi is a different cup of tea because he's at the Judicial Service Commission. I support his candidature because you don't have to like what he says, but he says it. And somehow he seems to be the people's lawyer. He may not necessarily be the lawyer that suits everybody in the establishment and so on. But at the Judicial Service Commission, when he's there, he's a voice to be heard. And I think at this transition, when judicial reforms are hanging in the balance, when we are not sure whether judges will always do the right or the wrong thing, I think we need somebody who is not just vocal, but courageous, to be able to speak out in the public light. And I would agree to the other candidates running, it helps the democratic process. But as a person, both the chairman, outgoing chairman, hopefully re-elected, and Ahmed Abdullah Nasir, these are people I would like to see back.
Okay.
God willing.
Benji?
Sophia, on this one, I'm with Tony Gachoka. All the way. The performance of Chairman Eric Mutua has been sterling. He has been a forthright leader. He has not really brooked controversy unnecessarily. He has a spine of steel.
But what do you say about when, during the presidential election petition, and they wanted to be enjoined as a friend of the court?
Amicus curiae.
Amicus curiae. Right. And that did not happen because the court ruled that they already had a side. And that's one of the arguments being made, that they'd already taken a side in that an affidavit had been signed.
Sophia, that's an interesting question, because sometimes I've seen this, especially in journalism, where in order to appear objective, you could see an obvious anomaly, but you have to ask the question in a manner that, you know, clearly absolves you of your professional responsibility. I think that as a lawyer, if there are questions, by the way, for example, and I don't want us to go back into the whole election here, you realize the transmission of results electronically was the law, the Elections Act. So to step aside and not have an opinion so that you don't ruffle feathers and you're not seen to be biased defeats the purpose. But having said that, Mutua has been courageous, all right? He has been a very strong person, not easily swayable and what have you. The Grand Mullah, you may not like him very much, as Tony says, but you know what? In Kenya, we need more people like Ahmed Nasir. You need more people who are committed to something, who will stop at nothing, who will be forthright and very bold in, you know, executing their mandate, because you've got too much hypocrisy and too much other, you know, for lack of a better word, nonsense that translates into a lot of the mediocrity we have in this society, where the systems and the institutions do not work for the 40 million Kenyans. Having said that, it's interesting to me that Ogenda has absolutely refused to avail himself on any public panel when the media houses have called and what have you. I do know that he's also the lawyer on the Governor Kidero, staff and whatnot. So you wonder why he wouldn't want to expose himself to public scrutiny. But also Kongo Mugeni, former chair at the Anti-Corruption Board, a good guy, but a soft guy. All right, those are some of the major contestants. I don't know who else
I'm very happy to see there's a woman running for the vice chair.
We don't even know her name.
I know her name, but my point is the gender issue in the LSK has been pregnant for some time.
There was a vice chair before.
In fact, the first LSK chair was Rachel Mamu now, Cabinet Secretary for Defense, if you remember. And I'm really concerned that although this debate is going on, people are not seeing the strong women in the council, because there are seats other than the chairman being contested. I think there are 3 council chairs. I think Jennifer Shamala is running for one of the council members. And as you know, I worked with Jennifer Shamala. I wish that she would succeed.
All right.
I don't know other people who are running.
I want us to talk about ODM as we continue with this elections conversation. Later on this month, they go as well to elect their own leadership. And we discussed this a little bit last week. Of course, there's been more development. The young the old guard, part of what has been coming forward with Raila maintaining that, you know what, we as a party have to present a picture that is representative of all. There have been those who've argued that Secretary General, especially position, should be reserved for Luo Nyanza. So out of this election, and those you've seen pull out, and they're grieved, and they've said, you know, we're not too happy that we feel like we've been forced not to be part of. But Raila is saying, no apologies, because at the end, I'm not going to endorse you for endorsement's sake. Go out there and fight it out like everybody else. Aaron?
I think ODM has the highest representation in Parliament as a single party. And I think it's a big party. And when they come up for polls, we expect things to be done in a credible manner. But the issue of reservation of the Secretary General seat for the Luo, I don't know if that thing would break ODM or not. But the point is that do we expect to see a contest that all the candidates are from one region? I don't think it will look democratic. And I think for this part, I think the party leader, I would support him by saying it's not a reservation for the Luo, and it's not. It does not mean that no Luo can contest for that seat, for that matter. If Zani is seen to be the right person to replace Anyang' Nyong'o, let it be. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I do not want to see a situation where all the chairman, the party leader, the secretary general, the vice chair are from one particular region, for that matter. So I expect Kasarani. And then there's an issue of delegates list, for that matter.
Yes.
It is said to be doctored. I think there are names that have been put in, others have been removed. At the end of the day, do we expect to see ODM crumble? But I think this is a particular taste that would test ODM.
If I may weigh in, number one, ODM is not the most popular party.
I did say that.
I didn't say that.
I said it's a single party.
You use your words, I can use mine. ODM is not the most popular party. I think I read last week the latest opinion poll, the national.
He talked of seats.
He talked of seats, not popularity.
I think you're going to speak shortly. I'm saying that I read the other day of the opinion polls, and the National Alliance Party, TNA, is the most popular party. And that's significant, politically speaking, because the first time I've seen an opinion poll where ODM is not the most popular party in some years. And that does echo what's going on into the election. The former Prime Minister is entering these elections for ODM, knowing well that he has to salvage the image of the party and the waning popularity. And therefore, it is important for him not just to have the face of Kenya, but not to lose membership and national appeal. So I would agree with you on the premise that the Prime Minister, former Prime Minister, needs to actually handle this properly. I also want to say that this issue that is in the media of a conflict in ODM is not true. The former Prime Minister enjoys this kind of thing because I worked with him. The Prime Minister would never allow a conflict. There was never Orengo running. There was never Daumas Otieno running, Bandi and all this. This problem was created for the headlines which you have generated. Sophia is helping him today again. This has been
Excuse me, Daumas Otieno has himself come out to say that he was made to abandon.
Ma'am, if you remember...
Sophia, let's stick to my name.
Okay, if you remember, even Mudhama said that Kalonzo Musyoka will never enter court. Politicians are not taken for face value. There is no rebellion in Luo Nyanza by the leadership or MMPs. Everybody knows that de facto God in that area is Raila. Nobody can run against without his blessing. And therefore the media has gone on to this narrative created by journalists who don't understand the Prime Minister. There is nobody who can run in Nyanza.
So it's the journalists here.
On this one, let me tell you, there is no rift in ODM, there is no rift in Luo Nyanza, none of those candidates.
Who said there was a rift?
It's a headline news. What are you asking? It's a headline news.
Benji, I don't like the whole definition of politics, and I just treated this last night in Kenya as an act or a career of wrongdoing, because what that does, then it turns off decent, ordinary, usually middle-class people from the whole political process, because people look at it, like Tony is saying, and look at politicians as liars and look at it as rubbish and just concentrate on their work. In the meantime, democracy suffers. Having said that, Sophia, my answer is going to amuse you a little bit. It fascinates me how little Kenyans interrogate anything. Why ODM? Why the Orange Democratic Movement and not the Sugarcane Democrat? Does anybody know that answer? Does anyone know where Orange Democratic Movement came from? And let me just inform Kenyans that at around the time of 2005, after Raila Odinga and the LDP wing had walked out of cabinet, there was the Orange Revolution in Eastern Europe, which was a very, 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 very strong uprising against the establishment that even caused the leader of that revolution, Yushchenko, to be poisoned. A poisoning from which he recovered and which was very controversial. Well, they went on to sweep the entire country. And if you remember in his rhetoric, especially his former chief protocol officer here, Raila always used to talk about the tsunami. I don't know how many Kenyans remember that the tsunami sweeps all the way to the Nile without, you know, forgiving anything. And so the Orange Democratic Movement was born. This was a thing conceived. You could say it was a little flippant the way they named it, Sophia, but this is something that Raila conceived very well, discussed, brought in the Pentagon, you know, representing the country in general. And so its sweeping of power in 2007, 2 years later, was pretty much inevitable, if you may. But then, you know what happened, then happened. That background and history is very important, Sophia, to understand that the last person to allow this party to become or be seen as a Luo, you know, dominant force is Raila Odinga. And so, contrary to what Tony is telling you, I have very good information that some of these members, and I don't want to say their names on national TV, were heard complaining bitterly at different places in town last week. You know, the places that senior politicians go, that they have been locked out, that they've been barred. In fact, I'm told
Why are they not coming out in public to complain? Why are they complaining in...
Well, because sometimes coming out in public, if you want to look at the history of Anyang' Nyong'o and Orengo, for example, the last time they came out publicly and opposed Raila, they were home. They were not senators, they were not members of parliament, etc. And so, I'm trying to be very careful.
Are you just confirming what I said?
In my assessment.
Are you confirming what I've said?
In a roundabout way, but I'm making a bigger point. I understand some of them.
They cannot run without the former prime minister. Let me make this very clear. In Luo Nyanza, there's only one king. And it is Raila.
And I think everyone knows that.
And everybody does. And so in the national face of the party, I think that Joho and the politics of Joho is somebody to watch. And I don't know, Aaron, if you agree with me, because Zani is a Joho ally, and they're going to get 2 slots, and very senior slots. You're talking about deputy leader, and you're talking about secretary general. Right. Now, that's a big move for the coast region that has always said they have not been involved in national politics. There is another 2 slots for Kisii. And that's an area which has been slippery between CORD and Jubilee.
But Tony, you must agree with me.
It is a battleground. And then I'm saying, after the battleground there, and it's interesting that Odinga is putting a woman at the top of the political game, because that's not been done in URP, it's not been done in TNA.
That was my point, Tony.
And therefore, Odinga is using these elections to make very strong political points. And nobody will be blind to the realignment in ODM. Of course, the 50% of the country, half the country is ODM territory. So to reclaim and not to lose their battlegrounds is, for me, very, very important. And the coast and Kisii, and I've noticed even Northeastern, Odinga is making some very interesting moves that if I was in TNA, I'd be very worried. He's making a statement, not just through the elections for Luo Nyanza, but by saying ODM is a national face, and I think he wants to retain that identity.
Tony, you must agree with me, especially if you look at the letter that he did yesterday in the press to his good friend Joel, a think tank, Brookings Institution expert who died on African governance affairs, etc. If you look at Raila's letter yesterday, if you look at what he's trying to do in ODM today, and if you contrast that against his rallies and how he's able to connect to Mwananchi, at this point in our history, there's not a single person in this country at this point in time that is as politically adept and as talented as the son of Jaramogi Odinga. I know a lot of people are going to treat madness there, but that is just the truth. Okay. So he's right. He's always many steps ahead politically, and I'd say ignore him at your own peril. All
right, let's go to Rachel Shebesh, woman representative, Nairobi County, the governor as well. So she says she's forgiven him for the sake of development. And what else did she say? Yeah, for development's sake, and it's unconditional. Yes, that was the other big comment she made. You were covering this.
I don't know if it's unconditional.
His face tells it all.
I don't know if it's unconditional, but we do not know. I'm sure they met somewhere and talked and agreed on this matter.
On some things.
But I think at the end of the day, I look at that topic and I try as much as possible to avoid it, because I I don't see any positive thing coming out of it in that discussion. These two people need to get their act together the way they've done, and let's move on. Nairobi has so many other issues. If we keep talking about the slap, I don't know, Shebesh has done ABCD, wasting a lot of time, whereas Machakos seems to be making more progress.
Aaron, when you look at what happened,
Nairobi,
the alleged slap, but if in fact it was there and happened, and then for there not to have been, this drawn out, refusing to admit it happened, this one saying not forgive, it just does also set a picture and precedence in terms of what we're meant to replicate as a citizenry who look at them as a leadership.
What I have to say there, Sophia, is this. The winner of this matter is Kidero, because Shebesh could never hold back forgiving him, quote unquote, and she has so done. The rest history will decide. But the point I'm making is that she wasn't consistent with her complaint. There is no alleged slap. There was a slap. She has forgiven him, and everybody in Kenya, it was there, and everybody in Kenya knows that she's left comfortably from this dispute. The issue that worries me is not that the governor had to do what he had to do, because one would ever argue, should she have ever gone to the office, not go, what would the governor do or not do? Those are arguments, but the issue is that she has actually withdrawn, and the handshake was made. Could I say this about violence against women? Whether or not this case goes away, we must condemn at this program, at any forum, any kind of violence against the weaker sex, if you so wish to say, or any person, including violence by women on men. And we must not allow or tolerate and say you can buy your way out or you can get away from it. It's a sad event that came to people in public light, and it should be something that should be condemned, and we don't want to see it happen again.
Sophia, I want to be very clear, and this is the first time that I'm coming out very clearly on the issue of the governance at the top in the city county of Nairobi, which should be the best example for the entire country, including counties as far as Turkana, including Uasin Gishu and what have you, Kwale, Lamu, and what have you, Sophia. I want to be very categorically clear. What has happened with this entire episode is absolutely unfortunate. I happen to have been in Machakos last week just to see, the work that Alfred is doing and how he's doing it. I can tell you that there were audible gasps from the crowd as these cars were being released, were being launched. These cars have CCTV and what have you. They are tracked where a police officer cannot just go out of jurisdiction and what have you. You can imagine these are the kind of things that the ordinary folk have never seen, have never imagined, at best have seen only in movies. If you look at Nairobi County, right outside the governor's office, there's a big, deep pothole. And someone should take a picture today and tweet it. Why? The governor is overwhelmed. We're going on to 1 year. Things are really not happening in Nairobi. Things, I tell you, Sophia, I was on outing the other day near Kariobangi North. You wonder how those Nairobians are inside of Nairobi County, because the county is stuck. It is stuck on all manner of allegations. And of course, the most damaging thing, Sophia, is for the ordinary Kenyan that's watching this, that saw that video played over and over again. The clear message is that if you're a big person, you can actually go to a court, extract orders blocking your arrest. This after the DPP made it very clear that based on what he had after investigations, the governor should be prosecuted. And so, after you block that arrest, you go and sit in a back room, you don't agree, you buy more time, you finally agree, and then you come out and tell Kenyans that we just agreed because she's a friend. Shebesh didn't even stand up for women. Obviously, there's been talk in the last 2 weeks of money being asked for and an allegation for money to change hands. We are all Kenyans, we know what happens. So this, to imagine that these are the top leaders in this county.
And we're seeing Kiambu as well.
To imagine that these, you've seen what's happening in Kiambu. Alice Nganga is my friend. I didn't even know she was unmarried until this stuff. So the governor did me a favor and told me that Alice is unmarried. So if anything, I thought he was talking about Priscilla Nyokabi, also a friend of mine. And I'm wondering what the relevance is. And just imagine, he even comes out to clarify, the governor, and say that he will not apologize. This is disrespectful to all women of Kenya. Absolutely. She's a hardworking girl. She was in Peter Kenneth's party. She's really tried. No, let me finish. It's
in less than a minute.
This is very, 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 very important.
I mean, everybody's important
and now
here.
you're talking about women being uncircumcised.
No, I think we should weigh in.
It is. Sophia, even as a woman, I don't know why women's
I want to say this.
And you women yourself are not speaking out and confronting these women and allowing them. This lady is not just a member of parliament. She's a women's representative.
Okay, woman representative.
It is
Thank you.
terrible.
Terrible.
Oh, it is terrible.
No, I want to say this, that you cannot rant against Kidero on this issue. There were two people on the table. There were two people. And the issue that was settled or not settled, the court did not want this embarrassment and tried to avoid adjudicating between two people who could agree. They are both adults. I'm sorry, they are. And they may not be Benji's relatives.
But you know, the argument that was made, just so that you answer it together, that as you make your answer.
Sophia, when two adults sit down on the table and a matter deals with them, whether you don't like the decision they make, and it's a personal matter, it's not a public matter. Yes, Evans Kidero is the governor of Nairobi, and Rachel Shebesh is a woman representative. But this was not about public money or public finances or about any public scandal. This was a private matter between the two.
No, it was not. I cannot allow him to get away with that.
I want to
it was about Article 73 and 74 of the Constitution of Kenya.
Even if you don't agree with me, let me make
it saying
it was even inside of the governor's office. Can I went to school in England?
I'm
not going to allow you to run away with this.
You cannot be charged with a criminal act without a complainant, even if you want. You cannot. The DPP and the CID director, whoever you are, if there is no complaint recorded under an OB, under the laws, what we call the penal code, you cannot be taken to a court. So if somebody withdraws a complaint against you, for whatever reason they do, the complaint remains withdrawn. And what I'm saying is, like it or you don't like it, these two adults sat down and have agreed to withdraw the cases. You cannot condemn Kidero on the one hand and not say that Shebesh was on the table. She was not intimidated. She made a willing decision to withdraw those charges. How and why it's different from I support Alice Nanga in Thika. Because that you cannot compare. Because Alice Nanga has been insulted by the governor of Kiambu.
Many times.
And she's been insulted as many women of this country have been insulted. And I cannot believe a man who is an adult and a governor can use the words I've heard. There are so many millions of single mothers in this country.
All right, we must bring this to a close, gentlemen. Thank you all for being part of this discussion.
I commitment to democracy.
I want us to quickly your views. I'm in a short while going to be talking to the Managing Director General, I beg your pardon, of the Competition Authority of Kenya. First, how many of you know of the Competition Authority of Kenya?
No, not many, I'm sure. Not at all.
Do you know of the Competition Authority?
Yes, I do.
What do they do?
Thank God I went to school. But no, what I wanted to say, because you only have a minute.
No, I want us to talk about the Competition Authority of Kenya.
But I thought this is your next interview. I just wanted to say a part in short. The president will be found free on February the 4th.
Rogue today.
Yes, yes. February the 4th is a status conference, a very important status conference. I only have 1 minute to say this. The prosecutor has no evidence. The prosecutor wishes to bring to the court an application, and the Attorney General is going, both at the Ruto case. I wonder whether he will be available at the president's case. Going to be very interesting, the relations and the allegations by the prosecutor that actually the government of Kenya is impeding investigations and clarity of evidence before the ICC. And I think this will be determined and will be a landmark decision. Is Kenya cooperating or is Kenya not cooperating? Is the prosecutor capable or not capable of prosecuting the trial? And I look forward to that stated conference.
Finally, Benji.
Substance abuse is real in this country. Just say no. I'm done.
You're done?
Maybe to finish up, I don't know, Tony keeps saying the president will be let go. I do not want to say so, but it will be interesting to see what comes out of the status conference. But all in all, I would say on the country right now, the state of the country, I think devolution looks to be the biggest challenge. And I think a lot of energy should be put into seeing the realization of
good point. I agree with you about
devolution. How I know it's a challenge. It's the first time. Teething problems ought to be to come out. But I think the energy of the country right now, of the government led by the president, should be geared towards a realization of devolution.
Okay, thank you. I wish you all a great week. Hopefully see you next week.
You too.
You need to go get some sleep.
Yeah, I didn't sleep at all.
Yeah, you do. You should.
But I hope I did okay for someone who didn't sleep.
Yeah, there's lots of feedback which I'll be reading. There's lots of feedback which will be something later on. But thank you, Benji Ndolo, Tony Gachoka, Ochieng, for being with us this morning. That's the way it is. Thank you so very much. We're going to take a short break. When we return, it's all about the Competition Authority of Kenya. So you know how sometimes you watch this advert about a product and then you purchase it and it doesn't quite deliver as it promised to? Well, there's a body that's meant to safeguard you against those kind of people doing those kind of things, lying to you basically. So we'll be talking and learning more about that authority and what it does, its mandate, and some of the things they're working on right now. So stay with us right here on KTN. We're going to be back in a few short moments.